All right, what's happening, everybody? So Better Dwelling has put out an article stating that Canadian real estate prices will likely drop, or they see Canadian real estate prices dropping 30% from the peak to the trough. And I just want to unpack this a little bit and give you guys my thoughts on it. I'm that Agent Kelly. I talk about real estate investing, my local market of Vancouver, British Columbia, and I guess Canadian real estate as a whole. I post every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. If you get any value or entertainment from this content, all that I ask you, thumbs up, subscribe. Let's get into this video. All right, so let's take a look at this article by Better Dwelling. Canadian real estate prices to fall 30%. Early stages of a recession are here. Oxford Econ. I'm assuming that's Oxford. Canadian real estate prices to fall 30%. Most gains to be wiped out. Canadian real estate prices are forecasted to fall further, but pandemic-era gains won't be wiped out, though it will be close. The firm sees prices falling 30% from peak to trough after rising more than 54% since March 2020. For those without a calculator handy, that would leave March buyers with a roughly 2.3% compounded annual growth rate. Seems plausible, seems like that's not unreasonable to say. I want to talk about 2008 and what happened in the US, but first, subscribe and like, let's not forget about that. So back in 2008, in the worst housing crash that has happened ever, anywhere, ever in the United States, we saw by the way, they're talking about national home prices in this article. So they're speculating that national home prices on composite or aggregate pricing, which means condos, townhomes, detached homes, everywhere in the country combined, and the average of those prices to drop 30%. So in the US in 2008, that metric, composite pricing across all of the US, fell about 30%. I think it was a little bit less. This article I'm going to throw on the screen says 30%, but I remember it being 26% or 27%. To make up that 30%, let's just call it, prices had to fall up to 60% in some areas. 60% to get an average of 30% on the National Home Price Index across the US in 2008. So currently right now in Canada, we are down 15% on the National Home Price Index. And within that 15%, you have places like Abbotsford detached homes down 30%, over 30% now, Chilliwack's down over 30%, and we've got to get another 15% on the National Home Price Index for this article to come to fruition. Now, I'm not saying that it won't, and I'm not saying that it's impossible, but you would probably have to have areas like Vancouver or Vancouver suburbs or the GTA suburbs fall 60%, just like what happened in the US, to get to that 30%, considering we've already come off 30% in a lot of these suburbs. And Ontario is even worse. There's some suburbs out there that are down 35, 40% already, from what I know or from what I've heard. So we'd either have to fall 60% in some of these areas, which I don't think is going to happen. I mean, it's not impossible, but out here in Abbotsford, we've come off 30% and prices have been flat for about 4 months now. I haven't seen anything really change, no real price reductions or anything like that. I mean, there's still a couple sellers that are catching up and reducing their price, but for the most part, sales prices have stayed relatively stable. So we'd either have to see, areas like this, Vancouver GTA, come down another 30%, or we would just have to see most areas come down 30%. And the thing is, you have places like Edmonton where the home price is, the average home price is already under $400,000. We're talking, Edmonton, a $400,000 home losing what is that, 90 grand, $80,000? Am I doing that math right? 3 times 4, 120 grand? 120 grand. We're talking about a $400,000 home going to 280. That's a lot harder to do, right? And you guys got to remember that, a $400,000 home is a lot less affected to rate hikes than a $1.5 million home. Somebody who owns a $400,000 home in Edmonton has a mortgage of, what is that, $320,000, as opposed to somebody in Vancouver that has a mortgage of $1.1 million. They're way more susceptible to rate hikes. Therefore, it's a much more volatile market. But to get markets like Edmonton, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, Yukon, all these markets where home prices are relatively affordable as it is, to get them to drop 30%, it's going to be way more difficult than it is to get, you know, the GTA suburbs and Vancouver suburbs to come down 30%. And we've already seen that 30% out here. So two things would have to happen. Either all of these affordable markets, like I just mentioned, would have to come down 30% on average to get us, or a little bit more than 30% on average to get us to that 30% national home price index, or Vancouver and the GTA would have to fall another 30%, which I just don't see it happening. Like, something catastrophic would have to happen. And you know, the circumstances are a little bit different this time around. Like, yes, debt is at an all-time high. Yes, interest rates were just raised at an unprecedented rate. Completely agree. However, I believe that the circumstances were set up a little bit different. We've got the stress tests in place. Lending regulations were a lot more strict this time around. And I agree with you that, you know, inflation, people are paying a lot more for gas and groceries and this and that and their car, and you know, something catastrophic could happen. That's definitely not out of the cards. I'm just giving you guys all of the information that what would have to happen for home prices to come down 30%. We would have to see another scenario like 2008 where people were walking away from their homes, which could happen theoretically, but I doubt it, because I think Canadians will literally do whatever they can to keep paying that mortgage for another year or two. They'll get rid of the car. They'll frickin' stop eating out. They'll buy different groceries. They'll, you know what I mean? Like, they will literally do whatever they can to keep that house. And, you know, the bulk of homeowners are still in a hefty profit out here in Canada, right? Like, there are places in the States where home prices have essentially done nothing for a decade. That's not the case here. In most of Canada, people who bought prior to the pandemic are still in a hefty profit, right? So we'll see what happens. But another thing to consider is immigration, right? I just put out a video, I guess a while ago by the time this video comes out, about how, you know, BC saw 117,000 in population growth, but only built 47,000 homes, or there's only 47,000 housing starts. Well, 2.2 average people per household, we were still short 6,200 homes. And that has been the case for decades and decades. So inventory, right? If you look at 08, even here in Canada, I don't know about the States, but in Canada, we had almost 21,000 available listings. And today we have 9,500. So we are literally less than half the inventory that we had in 08. And in 08, I think we only saw a 12% correction on national home price index for Canada, or something like that, or it might even been lower. It was like 9 or 12% or something like that. And that was with 21,000 listings. Today we have 9,500, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of things that could push prices down to that 30%, but there's also a lot of fundamentals that I believe will set a floor under prices before we get there. So anyways, that's just my take on that article. I know this is a short video. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.